The geek mainstreamification that H.P. Lovecraft and Cthulhu have undergone in recent years is strange, to say the least. I haven't seen this much of an attempt to turn a malevolent source of ancient evil into something cute and cuddly since the release of the Furby. And for that reason, it's sort of understandable that the adaptations and attempts to create Lovecraftian video games just keep missing the mark. A few years back, Focus and Cyanide Studios announced that they were developing a game based on the old-school pen-and-paper RPG Call of Cthulhu, a Lovecraftian horror game that's remembered fondly by plenty of old geeks, including myself. And despite the fact that Cyanide's games generally fall squarely in the B- to C+ range, I was genuinely excited to try it out. Part of this came from the fact that the game had originally been worked on by Frogwares, a developer best known for Sherlock Holmes mystery games. And while my experience with those games is limited, I know that what a Call of Cthulhu game really needs is a hard-boiled detective willing to completely and utterly lose his shit in the name of truth. Call of Cthulhu was released on Halloween of this year, and while it did indeed miss plenty of marks, I'm happy enough to report that it might contain some of the best and most appropriate Lovecraft-style atmosphere of any horror game I've seen in the past few years. Just like any good Lovecraft story, it's set in the mid-20s and you're in New England. You play Edward Pierce, a private investigator and veteran of World War I. You've been hired to investigate the death of an entire family who lives on the grim and spooky island of Darkwater, somewhere off the coast of Boston. There's grizzled fishermen and cults and lots of green mist hanging around in the air, so right off the bat I felt perfectly at home in this world. The game largely centers around questioning locals, investigating and recreating crime scenes, and looking for evidence. As these sort of detective stories go, as you unravel the mystery, you find yourself further and further enmeshed in something much bigger, more dangerous, and tentacly than you originally bargained for. It's these moments of crime scenes, puzzles, and investigation where Call of Cthulhu really shines. Call of Cthulhu owes a lot to games like Amnesia, which really took its time sucking you in before just scaring the hell out of you. And the addition of investigating adds a little more player agency to the experience. You feel like you have some level of control, at least. Searching for evidence and slowly building up your abilities as a detective was really appealing, because it gave you a ton of opportunities to just wrap yourself up in the atmosphere that Cyanide's made for you. As I've mentioned in the past, the real horror that I love is unsettling atmospheric horror, and if you take the time to read the clues and get a full feel for what's going on in Darkwater, you find a plotline that's lots of fun to take part in. My only issue with the investigation portion is that Call of Cthulhu falls into a familiar trap that you see a lot in some adventure games. The idea of unlocking certain items or people only after you've fulfilled certain requirements. For example, I was in a hospital and I found a key. I thought, oh, a key. I know I'm going to need a key later on. That's just how these games work. But I found I couldn't pick it up. An odd piece of scenery, but whatever. So later on, I talk to another character who mentions the room that this key is for, and when I go back, suddenly now I can pick it up. Which... what's the point of that? It's not like it cost me a lot of time, but this item gatekeeping is a factor I'm never going to understand in games. Regardless of that, the investigation and puzzle moments in the game kept me pretty happy for a while. And then, about halfway through the story, things start to shift. I don't know what happened in the development process, but it feels like someone came in and said, okay, enough of the detective crap. Where are the guns? Where are the stealth mechanics? Where are the monsters that jump out at you from the screen? Shouldn't you be shooting zombies? Whoever this guy is, I kinda hate him. Because the game inexplicably starts dipping its toe in other genres, and it's pointless. It's not surprising, though. Lovecraft's work has always challenged the commonly held video game belief that there's nothing in the world that can't be solved by a man and his gun. Or sword, if you prefer. And the stories of H.P. Lovecraft are not about winning, they're about surviving, at best. The gold medal at the end of a Lovecraft story is glimpsing into the unspeakable, apathetic horror that surrounds us in the universe and the stars, and walking away with only a portion of your mind completely shattered. Familiar game tropes don't always work well under those circumstances, and yet, they tried. There's a jump scare mission where if you run out of lamp oil, an abomination leaps out of the darkness and tears you to shreds. It's almost Five Nights at Freddy's, its use of jump scares in this moment. And they're not even particularly well-made jump scares. For the record, I'm not saying you shouldn't use jump scares in your Lovecraft video game, but you know what, on second thought, that's exactly what I'm saying. You've got a scene where you're plugging possessed townspeople with your gun, which is both pointless and, honestly, really boring. The gun works exactly as you'd expect in an adventure mystery with gunplay, and that's not great. I should point out that the puzzles and investigations never go away during these moments, but the random leaps into different playstyles were so useless that I couldn't help but wish that I was just gathering more evidence and interrogating villagers again. If Cyanide had stuck to what was working, I could be sitting here complaining about the 2003 era level graphics instead. Most people will overlook bad graphics if the game is fun, and I would have been thrilled to do that. But a random slide into pointless game mechanics really mar something that could have been a great time all the way through. I'm not saying I didn't like Call of Cthulhu. When it's good, it really is one of the best recent examples I've ever seen of a Lovecraftian horror game done right. And fans of the Cthulhu mythos and atmospheric horror in general should certainly keep an eye out for when this one goes on sale. But it's a really tough sell at full price for anyone but the most hardcore of cephalopod worshippers.
If Daddy don't sink a little drinky, Daddy gets sad and blue. Sneak a little drinky, sneakity-doo. Sneak a little drinky past you. Sneak a little drinky, sneakity-doo. Sneak a little drinky past you.